Welcome to the Cosmic Cadence podcast. We are your hosts, Kate
and G. And this is the podcast where we decode the cosmic vibes of your favorite albums and the people that help bring them into the universe.
Welcome to another episode of the Cosmic Cadence podcast. We're doing a bit of a departure from our usual two kind of setups that we have. Do you want to explain to everyone what we're doing today?
Yes, we are obviously winding down the year. So we figure instead of doing a full-on album, for all of the Spotify users out there, everyone knows Spotify Wrapped is a very, what's the word?
The most important time of the year.
I mean, yeah, it's very anticipated time of year.
Yeah.
So we figured we would use our Spotify Wraps, our personal Wraps, to see what our top 5 songs were. And then we're going to see, based on those songs' release dates, what zodiac sign they are. And that will kind of tell us what our personal year energy was.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah. So I think without further ado, we should just kind of jump in. I'm so excited. So I looked up all the release date information and figured out the zodiac signs for the both of us. So
yeah.
I
haven't looked at my
strong idea as to what Kate's energy has been this year. I was a little shocked by mine, but we'll get into that. Yeah, so why don't you go first with what your number one most played song of the year was?
Okay, well, I will start this by saying I was also a little shocked just when I saw my Wrapped graphic itself. It definitely was not what I expected it to be. But I will say my top song especially shows this. I feel like my Capricorn moon really came out this year because my top song is a song that we actually performed karaoke for. So I practiced too hard and it became my top song, which is Bring It, Snakes on a Plane by Cobra Starship, but we kind of manifested that Cobra Starship came back this year. So
we did, yes. I feel like what is it? It's like the triggering event, like us performing the song on the karaoke stage, like, brought them out of hiding.
It's like a snake charmer, you know?
Yeah. We summoned the return of Cobra Starship.
With snakes on a plane, get it? See? But honestly, it's an epic song. Definitely an epic song. An epic, like the super group of artists that perform it. So if you haven't heard the song, which you totally should check out if you haven't,
and watch the video.
Oh yeah, the video is so good. And this is obviously it's for the movie, which I've actually never seen in full.
Then you need to watch the movie after this.
I probably should. We picked this song for an emo karaoke event that we were doing. And we had many awesome choices, but I'm actually quite glad that we landed on this one because, you know, at the surface, it's just a fun song, but when you read the lyrics, it's actually pretty badass.
Yeah, so when you sent me your top 5 and I saw that was your number 1, like, all jokes aside, like, just the title alone made a lot of sense for your year, because I feel like even though the release date and zodiac sign that corresponds with it doesn't necessarily fit the song, in my opinion, I think the energy that you had of just kind of like, bring it, like, what else can you throw at me? I'm like tackling everything was definitely how you looked at this year.
Totally. And then that's why, like, when I was looking at the song lyrics, when we were picking our song, I was like, oh no, this one feels right. But really, I mean, it says it in the title, like you said. I've had many things thrown at me this year, and definitely has been one of the craziest years of my life in terms of like having to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, which is very hard for me and my zodiac makeup. But to your point as well, I would have guessed the song would be like a Leo, but it's a Virgo.
It's a Virgo, and I was.
But wait, is it kind of a cusp? August 28th. That's like kind of a cusp. Not really, but like kind of.
It's your definition of a cusp. I always call a cusp like 1 or 2 days either side.
I go like 5
like it's a firm Virgo, my friend.
It is a firm Virgo, yeah. But I guess that makes sense of like. Virgo is an earth sign, so very grounded energy, and that is kind of, you know, when you're like facing all these challenges head on and you're just like, well, I have to be grounded. I have to face what's coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my top song. What was your top song?
Okay, so my top song really confused me because I really don't think I listened to this song that many times. My top five as a whole, I'm like, did Spotify just kind of check out of some of the listening I was doing this year? I don't know. But my number one song was a song called Safe Space by an artist called Sughn, which is hilarious because we're basing the release date, their sun sign, all that, whatever. But yeah, it's a song called Safe Space by Sughn. And this song was actually shown to me by a friend of mine who was, I think, either looking at this artist to work with in some capacity, but she was like, you have to check out this song. It's the coolest thing I've ever heard. It's really beautiful and different. And the thing that stuck out to me, and maybe why I can say I at least listen to it 3 times, is because there's different vocal changes that happen, and you think there's multiple singers, but it's just the one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I listened to it the first time because she was like, oh, listen to it. And I listened to it. And then after she was like, that's the same person singing the entire song. I was like, no, wait. So then I played it again. And then I was like, how is that happening? And then I listened to it a third time. Spotify thinks I listened to this over 200 times. So the only I don't think I did. I think Spotify, which is what I was gonna say. So that happened to me one year. The song shall not be named, the artist shall not be named. But there was a song that I was listening to one night that was just so peaceful and calming that I hit the little repeat button and then I accidentally fell asleep. So then the song played all night. So I don't remember doing that with this one, but maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Or maybe they count like the skips in a playlist. I don't know. But that was my top song. And this song came out February 16th of this year, making it an Aquarius, which out of the rest of the songs, energies that I have, this is the only zodiac placement that I personally have in my chart. And I think, going with the stereotypes of Aquarius, of like the alien, the weirdo, like this has been a very weird year for me. So the fact that the number one song on my playlist or on my top listened songs of the year is an Aquarius, it makes perfect sense.
Well, also, if I guess the deeper layers of it for me, when you were explaining it, I feel like you've been discovering different layers, different versions of yourself this year. So I feel like with the, you said it's like one person, but it sounds like multiple people.
Yeah.
And also that's very Aquarius, I feel like.
Yeah.
In concept.
Yeah.
So, makes sense.
All right.
Song number 2. Actually, well, for me, we're going to combine 2 and 3 because it's from the same album, because I did the same thing to myself where I was performing a cover song for this artist. We were doing a fun little Halloween show with my friends, and I sang on 2 Tiger's Jaw songs. And so yes, my number 2 song was I Saw Water, and number 3 was Chemicals, which are probably like my 2 of my favorite songs from that album, and that's probably like my favorite Tiger's Jaw album.
I was very confused as to how those got in there. Like we both love Tiger's Jaw, and maybe next year we have a couple albums from them we could probably
gotta do at least one.
But I saw that and I was kind of curious how they ended up so high for you. It's like I know we saw them this year a couple times, and like they're a forever favorite, but I didn't think you listened to them that much for them to rank that high, especially back to back. So having that context of like, you listen to the songs you prepare a lot.
Yeah. As I said, my Capricorn moon was very, very apparent in the top 3 songs for me. So like you said, we did actually end up seeing them, and I just happened to do these cover songs. So it kind of makes sense that they ended up there. But interesting fact, when we went to see this show, it was actually my birthday this year, and I forget how many years ago it was. It might have been like a solid 10-year span that I had booked them at my college on that day, on my birthday back in college. So it was kind of nice full circle. So it's a nice reminder that these showed up on my list. I will say in general though, we'll get into the other ones, but this, like, my listening habits are, I don't know how to describe them, because I feel like they, like, my show going habits and my listening habits are very different.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think that kind of ties into like sometimes there's bands that you'll go see live, but it's hard to listen to them just kind of like in general existence. I find that a lot with like certain bands in the heavier space where it's like I'm not saying this per se with this band, but like I can go and see Slipknot, but then it's hard for me to like just sit and listen to Slipknot unless I'm in a rageful mood. Yeah. So that does make sense.
Yeah. Like I feel like I actually on my Spotify tend to listen to a lot of EDM, which is like very not that I don't go see EDM shows, but like I'm a huge rock fan.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's just interesting how that works out, I guess.
Yeah.
But yes, what was your number two? I guess number two and number three.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say it makes sense that you grouped yours together because you also left out a very important detail. They both came out on the same day.
Yes, okay. So, forgot the oh wow. Okay, so as I said, I had not seen this before. Both of the, obviously, as you said, they're on the same album, therefore same sign. Also Virgo. So I had a very Virgo year thus far. Very grounded year, which doesn't necessarily make sense. But we'll get into that after.
Here's where things get a little crazy for me. So unlike you, where you had the same artist, same songs on the same album, I have same artists, two songs off the same album, but they were singles, so they came out at different times.
Interesting.
So whereas you have twins, I have siblings. Yes. Okay, so the first song I have is Overcompensate by 21 Pilots, which was the first single released off of this year's album campaign, Clancy. And that came out February 29th. And then the second song is Next Semester, which came out March 27th. So Overcompensate is Pisces, and then Next Semester is Aries. So two very different signs, two signs that I don't have in my chart per se, but it's very interesting how, we've gone from Aquarius to Pisces to Aries. We're almost going in order of the zodiac, which is crazy. But I say that to say, the first song, I think the reason the first song was as high as it was when it came out, it was so exciting that 21 Pilots was back and it was kind of a return to form. Like their last album, Scaled and Icy, kind of deviated a little bit. Like I kind of like to say you can tell Tyler had just had his kid and was very influenced by maybe the sounds around toddlers and babies. I don't know. And then this one was very much a return to form of like traditional 21 Pilots, dark lyrics, deep lyrics, all of that. So I was a fan. I was very excited to hear this song and I clearly played it a lot. The second song, Next Semester, though, I think that one got as high as it did because I specifically remember there being a day where you and I played this together back and forth. Because we listened through it once and we both were like, oh my God, like this is so relevant to our lives right now. I think it clicked with you more so than me at the time, but as the years gone on, it's kind of become my anthem as well. But I think the only reason why it was so high up for me was because of that day.
Yeah, it was very full circle. Because, I think we've talked about, we both work in the music industry, but one of my gateways to getting into the music industry actually was related to 21 Pilots. So it was just a very full circle moment in a transitional period of my life. So like G said, that like, when a song just hits, like you connect with the lyric, like you hear a lyric and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to play this on replay for like 20 times in a row. Definitely. That was what happened.
Yeah, I think that lyric for me at the time was the can't change what you've done, start fresh next semester. And I think it took me a little longer to really resonate with that lyric. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the transition, because I feel like we're both, I feel like you kind of transitioned a little further ahead. Like where you are now is completely different where you were when we started the year. Totally. I think I'm finally getting to that place myself where it's like, oh, I really relate to this song now. So it's exciting to see that it's in there, but a lot of 21 Pilots for me in my top 5.
But that's so funny. Also, that like that worked out between us. That our 2 and 3 were both from the same album.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Can't make this stuff up. Okay, my number 4, I actually have kind of a funny story for. And this one was surprising. Well, somewhat surprising, somewhat not surprising to me. So actually, speaking of transitions, I know the reason why this song got on my top list is because when I moved this year, and during my move I had this album on repeat. It was just one of those things that my brain just like latched onto it and I played it over and over and over. So my number 4 is Girls by The Dare. Relatively new artist as far as I know. It is an insane song. Literally insane song. But it's funny because I think it was this summer, you and I were driving around, and in my car, I had found these old mix CDs that I had made of music from high school, and it was like my hardcore dance mix. So it had artists like like Breathe Carolina, Family Force 5, 303. But as you put it, it was all very intense music because it was very like electro.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Emo, like it was just very like I liked very intense, upbeat, kind of dancey emo music back in the day. So we were listening to that on our drive, and then I had taken you to this crystal slash like plant shop that I really like, and we were walking around in there, and they just had, I guess, a random playlist playing. But you walked up to me, and this song was playing, and she was like, this sounds like your music. And I showed her my phone and I said, I just Shazammed it. So that's how I found out about this song this year. And again, this song is literally insane, but it's just the beat of it, like it's just a fun party song. And it actually makes so much sense to me because I had this revelation after listening to the album a couple times. I think The Dare is like this generation, or music for this generation's like 303. Honestly, like if you listen to the full album, you know, some of the songs are like that ironic pop, but with a cool like electronic edge. So yeah, I've actually really liked Dare's probably one of the artists like this year. I've listened to a lot of older music, as you could tell from my top 3, but this was a newer one that I really appreciated. Which this song is a Leo. Well, it came out. Oh wait.
It came out, I think it was released before the album. Okay. And I like did a lot of background because I was like, there's no way, because it says the album's this year, whatever. But yeah, it was released before the album.
And like a while ago.
2 years. That should be 23.
Okay. No. I was like, wow. No. Okay. So never mind. Well, anyway, this song came out around 2 years ago ish. But it's a Leo, and this song is
it's very Leo vibes, yeah. And I feel like in a weird way you kind of channeled Leo energy this year too, and like trying to put yourself out there. You're performing on stage a couple times, you know what I mean? So that made more sense to me than any of the Virgo stuff.
But also kind of what you said as well, like it's almost a progression of how my year has gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Interesting.
Which is funny. Yes. Because I'm also on a journey, you know, throughout this year and like going through changes and all of that. So my number 4 song was Letterman by Story So Far.
Good one.
And it came out before their album did. This was released March 21st of this year, making it an Aries. So give me double Aries energy for the year, which is interesting. But this is an album and a band that I truly thought would have placed higher in my Spotify Wrapped this year. Especially the song White Shores, because I feel like I listened to that more than Letterman, but you know, I guess Spotify data doesn't lie. And I think this song for me, like when I first heard it, it just kind of connected and resonated with me in a way that I've always been a fan of the Story So Far, and I've connected to some of their songs, but I think this was like the first one upon hearing it where it's just like, this is my anthem. This album as a whole was definitely one that's going to be in my top 10 for the year. And to see this song specifically in my top 5 was exciting because not only did it break up some of the 21 Pilots, spoiler alert as to what number 5 will be, it also, you know, kind of resonated and kind of moves through kind of like what you were saying, the transitions you've had throughout the year. I feel like this is kind of, so in the beginning, you know, things are just kind of weird. And I think the through line for me, the word of the year is things are weird. Overcompensate next semester, you know, it's kind of like looking at myself, looking at my situation, and maybe not necessarily being ready to face the changes. And then with this one, it's almost like, no, sit down, reflect on where you're at right now. Yeah. And then it all will come together with the final song, which I will share shortly. But before I do,
I love that though.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's like they always say, like, you grow through what you go through, you know, to like sit and like process. So I love that.
Yeah. Letterman is definitely me processing a lot.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Number 5.
This one was and wasn't surprising to me. This one was honestly just like my pump up jam when I needed a confidence boost.
Like to give you confidence, or
like you just need a
hype song.
You just need a hype song. Okay, so if you need a hype song, totally recommend this song. It is Rock Star by Lisa, who I believe was in Blackpink and went solo. She was always my favorite. I'm not like a huge Blackpink fan, but if I had to pick a favorite, it was always Lisa, because I do appreciate a good rap. And I went to this in my times of like just when you want to feel yourself kind of a thing. Which is interesting because I totally would have thought it's a Leo, but it's a Cancer. So I mean, kind of like, you know, Cancer comes before Leo. But I guess for me, just like rounding out my year and what we were talking about of it going in order, like my life is still, you know, I still have a lot to figure out, but I really feel more like balanced and centered. We actually, I had just gotten an aura photo done, and the lady did say, like, based off my colors and whatnot, like it was clear that I was much more like balanced and well-rounded. And I feel like, I mean, this song is called Rockstar, but so I don't know if I'd say like I feel rock star level, but I'm feeling
I'll say that for you. I think it's kind of crazy because when we first talked about doing this, I didn't think this would resonate the way that it's resonating right now. But I feel like this is a perfect kind of transition and progression of the year you had. Like, you are firmly a rock star right now. Like, you are in your rock star energy. And I think where the Cancer comes into play, right? It's like the nurturing and caring kind of sign. And typically people are like, oh, it's very motherly. It's like, I feel like you're finally taking that energy and putting it for yourself, right?
Yeah,
so like, I'm a rock star, but I'm a rock star because I'm putting myself first. I'm caring about myself. I'm nurturing myself. And I feel like to see where you started with this year, where it was kind of like, even going beyond the first song of Bring It, right? You weren't in this mentality, and then you wake up and you're like, you know what, world, bring it on. I'm ready to tackle it, you know? And then, you know, you kind of get a little reflective too with the I Saw Water and the chemicals, but the energy of Virgo of like picking up the pieces, setting up the plan, because Virgos love a plan. They love everything being just so. You're kind of like, okay, well, this happened. And if I do X, Y, and Z, that'll take me to here. Once I'm there, I can do this. So that's you kind of setting the course. Girls, I think a big part of the energy you had this year is like just wanting to have fun and like just trying things for the sake of trying things. You know what I mean? Like, granted, with a grain of salt, this girl can't get her to eat ramen to save her life. But, you know, it's like being more adventurous, being more outgoing and trying to pursue things, like kind of like when we were going through the karaoke shows, something that you kept saying. She's like, we have to put ourselves out there. And I'm like, why do you feel this so deeply? And now it's all making sense to finally get to the point where, like, I'm not going to say you're completely unafraid, because like you said, like, we all have room to grow and whatnot. I think you're finally in that place where you're kind of like, screw the fear. Like, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway, because what's the worst that can happen? I'm going to grow from this. And you grow through what you go through.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And that honestly is how I feel. Like, I truly challenged myself this year to, like, if it scared me, that was good. That meant I had to do it. And I really pushed myself this year through various things, but karaoke is a great example because I actually have terrible stage fright. But it's funny because, like, the more we did it, the less scary. Like, it actually wasn't scary at all.
Yeah, it was fun.
I mean, not to say
I kind of want to do it again,
but yeah. But like, and this is, I should say, like, live band karaoke.
Yeah, karaoke, we were performing. It wasn't karaoke. We were playing to a live crowd.
And you know, it just was something. I just know now, and obviously it's something that people say all the time, like that is really how you grow, is to challenge yourself. So yeah, this was definitely a year of me pushing past my comfort zone. And as I said, I feel like I still have like loads more to go, but I'm like so far from where I started, and I'm actually really grateful. And it's kind of funny too how my list parallels yours of like with the white shores, and as you said with the chemicals of we did like sit in our feels
A lot.
in the middle.
A lot this year.
That's how you get to the end. So with that, what is the end of your top 5?
Okay, so I think you are there. You're at the cusp. You're gonna go from Rockstar to Supernova next year. Like I'm still trying to get to Rockstar, right? So my final song, I believe it. I believe it. Not there yet though, but we'll get there. You know why? Because I'm not gonna backslide. Because my last song, number 5, is Backslide by 21 Pilots.
Okay.
And this came out April 25th. I believe it was the final single that was released going into their album. It is a Taurus. And
good energy.
Here's what I'm going to say about this. The whole theme of the song Backslide is like not undoing the progress, not reverting to your old ways, and kind of negating where you are from like where you started, how far you've come kind of thing, right? And I think looking back through my top 5 for the year, you know, again, things are weird. That is the through line. I will not let that go. You know, it has been a weird year. But getting the reflectiveness and then kind of looking in at my inner self of like the things I need to change, the things I need to improve upon, but also realizing like where I have grown as well and not kind of reverting to the old mentalities and like mental voices inside of my own head of like, you know, getting in my own way per se, right? So like I've kind of, here's the line, kind of crossed it. And like backslide for me is kind of saying, don't go back. Like you're not where you want to be yet, but you have made a lot of progress. So don't backslide now. And I think the Taurus energy in that is exciting because it's almost like be as stubborn as Taurus stereotypically are of like set your plan, dig your feet into the ground, and like really don't. I'm trying not to say backslide again. Like don't backtrack into where you've been before because you've already come so far. And I really think you know, the energy of this song just for this year makes so much sense because I think I'm finally in talking about transitions, I think I'm finally in a place where I'm starting to become less afraid of change. I'm a big hater of change, but change can be for the positive. You know, I think for me, unfortunately, this year there's been too much of it. And as a Scorpio at heart, you know, which is funny, no Scorpio for either of us in our top 5.
Yeah.
That there is a sense of wanting to control things, right? And like realizing more and more every day as you go through life that you can't control much of anything and just kind of being okay with that. So I am, at first, I was very shocked when I saw my list going into the wanting to control things. I was like, I wanted this there and this there. But the growth of it all is I'm looking at this and I'm actually really pleased with the top 5 that I had because I think it mirrors the year that I've had really nicely.
It tells a very nice story. And as we were saying, you know, like I was saying for your first song, where you're kind of discovering these different versions of yourself. But that is what I am most proud of you for, like towards the end, as like you're really starting to take the steps, kind of what you were saying about me as well. Like, I think we're both in a place in our lives where, like, you know what, we need to take care of ourselves because that is what's most important. And also, as they say, you have to take care of yourself to take care of anyone else. That's why they say, like, you know, your oxygen mask, you put yours on before you help other people. So I think that's just such a beautiful story of your year. Yeah. And like the growth that you're going through. And I'm just so excited even to see our next year.
I am too. I am too. I think what'll be really cool to, if we hold on to these lovely little pieces of paper, to compare next year's top 5 to this year's top 5 and see the progress that we've made then. Because I'm sure we'll be leaps and bounds further ahead.
And probably different camera setup. Who knows? Maybe we get microphones.
Yeah. We will evolve and you will grow with us.
Exactly. But okay, so I'm also kind of curious, like I'm gonna tally up right now. So let's see. I had 3 Virgo, which is Earth, one Leo, which is fire, and one Cancer, which is water. So I do really like that combo. But I guess my year was mostly Earth. We said we would go with the top, so
Yeah.
3 for Virgo. And as I said, Earth is usually like quite grounded, but you know what? Okay, so here's what I think about this. One time I went to an aura photographer, and they actually had an interesting kind of opposite perspective of what aura colors mean. And they were saying that your aura colors actually are more so not what you are in that moment, but they're showing up to help you be who you're supposed to become. So I feel like in a way I look at this Virgo earthiness, groundedness, and that's what I needed this year to in order to get to where I am. Because it's actually quite interesting, like I don't have any air, and maybe like I think I was feeling a lot of air because I could be very in my head or a lot of thoughts and whatnot. But I think sometimes we need the opposite in order to balance that out. So I think that this actually shows my year was quite like in irony. It shows that my year was quite balanced.
Yeah. For me, and this is shocking, and I might have to, do some deep self-reflection and come to terms with this. But I had a lot of Aries, a lot of fire. And then actually I had a really good mix. So I had one air, one water, one ground, and then Aries tops it out with the two there. So if kind of going off of what you said of like the energy you maybe needed, being that I have no fire in my chart, or at least no fire in my big three naturally, especially no air, I have no Aries in my chart. Maybe this is the energy I need to manifest, not necessarily for this year, but the energy I need to manifest for next year to help continue down this path of growth. Same thing with Taurus and Pisces. Don't have that in my chart naturally, but maybe the Pisces is telling me to dream more, and it's funny that kind of ties in with the overcompensate, because like overcompensating for, what you actually are for the sake of putting on a mask of like who you're pretending to be, like in a less negative way, like dream of who I want to be and then become that kind of thing. And then the Taurus with the backside, kind of touched on that already, but just being more firm, more stubborn with myself, to not go backwards and to continue to just move forward.
Well, it's funny. So I think even you said this a little bit, but what I was saying as well with my makeup, like I feel like this year you almost had to be in your emotions and whatnot. So the opposite of that to balance it is the fire.
I need to care less.
Yeah. But even, it's funny with me, Virgo, like what you said sparked something for me, because I've already told you next year, one of my personal goals, my word of next year is balanced. And I feel like I'm always out. So I plan to hopefully be in a little more. But it's funny because Virgo is the hermit in the tarot. So the hermit obviously is like kind of going inside and staying inside. So I'm going to be in my hibernation era for just a minute.
Yeah, I respect that. Before we wrap this up, and this is kind of giving a hint to something we're going to do in a later episode. We talked about our top 5 of the year, right? But when you pull from tarot, sometimes you pull like the top and then your final card is whatever card is underneath. We're not going to do the full however many songs are on this playlist. We're going to do what the number 10 song was for us. So for me, it was Beyonce's Tyrant. And I will say, Beyonce was my top artist of the year, but for none of her songs to be in my top 5 is crazy to me.
Interesting.
But did have a couple of her from my top 10, including Tyrant at number 10. But because Tyrant dropped with the album, it's an Aries, even more Aries energy for me. And I think I'm going to use that again towards my look ahead for next year, less than explaining this year. So if anything, this is just kind of confirming I need to channel that.
So we live very parallel lives, because my number 10 was Hard Times by Paramore, who was my top number 1 artist, but yet no Paramore in my top 5 songs.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, very parallel. But I love that for me, because Hard Times, I mean,
I feel
could a
like
song describe my year more? No, I
Yeah.
could not.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I feel like that's the song that describes your year. And
yeah,
I think whereas my song is looking ahead, yours is closing the chapter.
yeah,
No more hard times for you.
I would agree. And also, I'm somewhat into like numerology as well. And next year is actually a 9 year, which is all about rebirth and like endings and new beginnings. So that actually makes sense. So hard times. Again, hard relate. um, and this came out on April 19th, 2017, which makes it an Aries as well. So
Yeah,
again,
a lot of Aries.
we're two parallel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it makes sense, like even what you said, of it's kind of the energy that we needed/need.
Yeah. I'm excited about next year. Is there anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
I do. Okay, so for me personally, in my top 10, I'm actually quite surprised. There was one song that did not make my top 10. Well, it made my top 10, not my top 5, that I was very surprised. And that is Ain't No Love in Oklahoma from the Twisters soundtrack, which I've made G listen to many times in the car. And I'm not even a country fan. I'm not a country fan like that, but I love the soundtrack. And also Twister was my favorite movie when I was a kid. So had to see Twisters
In
and
4DX.
4DX.
Yeah.
It didn't hit quite like the 4DX experience.
I think our theater was broken.
It was broken.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're a fan of Twister and you haven't seen Twisters, gotta see it. Also, listen to the soundtrack because this song, if you listen to the lyrics, it's actually another one of those songs that's all about like
How there's no love in Oklahoma.
that. But along with that, it's very much about kind of like, you know, going through the struggle and overcoming the struggles. And what about you? You gotta have a wild card?
I don't know. I feel like wild card in the way you're using I'm not shocked by anything that's really on my top, I guess, 100 song playlist per se, but one that I thought would be a lot higher but wasn't was Kendrick Lamar. I think he dominated this year, and especially for me, I've listened to him a lot, at least in the last couple of months. So if Spotify is tracking now, if he's not in my top next year, I'll be very surprised. But a song that surprisingly I don't think made it high up, like Euphoria was higher for me, but Not Like Us was like deeper into my playlist. But I will share this fun little story. So I recently had a holiday party of which the DJ was like playing millennial core like hits like Jagged Edge, Where the Party At, Usher. Yeah, he even played the Bad Girl Usher, the entire song, which was like, why are you doing this kind of thing? And me and a friend were kind of just like, there's nobody dancing because he's playing stuff that's like old to a lot of the people that were at this party. And I really just wanted to hear Not Like Us because I really love that song so much. And she was like, well, I'm not afraid. I'll go ask the DJ to play the song. And she did. And he was like, let's see. Oh, I have it. Sure, I'll play it. And he played it. And everybody was a stretch. It went from like 5 people to maybe 15. But people went up for the song, and that turned into a little West Coast moment, which is exciting because he played Not Like Us, and then he played Swallow Up, and then he played Tupac Shakur, which was really exciting and fun to see that we affected change at the holiday party. It didn't last long because then he went to Dancing Queen by ABBA. But for a moment, we were living in 2024 and it felt really nice.
Can I say something though?
Yeah.
That to me shows an Aries moment. You could have harnessed the Aries and gone up and
do you want to know what's funny? The person I was with was an Aries.
There you go.
So there we go. Full circle. And on that note, thank you so much for listening. I think we've got one more episode for you this year, and then we will be joining you in 2025 with lots more in store and, you know, hopefully lots more growth. Thank you for being with us on the journey so far.
Also, if you didn't have anyone to share your Spotify Wrapped with, if your friends are party poopers and don't want to see
I want to see them. I love Wrapped.
Yeah.
I want to know, because then also it puts us onto new music that could be in our Wrap next year.
Yeah, so share your Spotify Wrapped with us as well. Bye. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to the Cosmic Cadence podcast. If you like what you heard, please take the time to subscribe and like, rate, and review wherever you listen. It really helps us out.
You can also find us on socials at Cosmic Canes Pod on all platforms. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.